This thread has been inspired by the Anyone Remember AOHELL and similar programs. Thread in SC. Well, personally I was never into the AOHELL shit. Way too amateur. I do admit that I did start out with AOHELL but quickly outgrew it. I used various methods to crack employee internal accounts and volunteer overhead and community leader accounts which were used by guides and other AOL volunteers. Special AOL accounts. Below is a description of some of the special AOL accounts that were around. Overhead. This is a special account which is not billed for any monthly fees. Many guides and other volunteers initially had these accounts. Also, certain corporations also had these kind of accounts for their employees too, namely ones which had content on AOL. Some of the cool features of this account were the ability to instant message people who had their instant messages off, the ability to scroll in the chat room like a madman without being booted off, and also gaining access to some restricted keywords. This was a great account for punting people, since you could instant message people who had their instant messages off. Also, good way to screw up a chat room too. Good account for lifting tokens too. You could instant message TOS advisor with it, and even have a conversation with him. He's a nice guy or guy since it seemed TOS advisor was on 24/7. Unless of course he came into a chat room because you're stirring up trouble. More on this later. Community leader account. This is one of the shittiest special accounts you could find. AOL decided to move most of their volunteer accounts, except for guides to this account type. It can't break through disabled instant messages nor can it scroll. All it could take is access the same restricted keywords that an overhead account can. It's good for lifting tokens, and fairly common so it's easy to hijack. Guide overhead account. This is a special overhead account used by guides. I'm sure you former AOL users remember these assholes trolling the chat rooms. They always ruined the fun because when they were around you couldn't use foul language without getting an on-screen warning which resulted in getting your account knocked offline and a nice TOS violation mark on your record. 3 on-screen warning reports and your AOL account is in stock hand. Guides were pretty much dumbasses who worked for free and did it for the free AOL and the power trip. Guide accounts can do everything that regular overhead accounts do plus offer the ability to do an on-screen warning. Great way to smoke accounts and the timed gag. The timed gag is a neat little chat command that allows you to prevent someone from chatting. Now, unless you announce to the person that they were gagged, they would never realize it because to them it looks like the chat text is showing up fine but no one else can see it. Guides will announce to the chatter that they've been gagged, but I never did since it's more fun that way. Timed gags were logged so I used them sparingly, until I got Chris access. Once the timed gag is applied, the chatter will be gagged for X minutes, set by the guide, and there is no way to chat until the time limit was up. Raymond, these accounts would publish and modify keywords. That's about it. For some reason a lot of lamers thought that they could do more. Internal accounts are given to employees and are a lot of fun to use. They can do everything an overhaul can do plus access all restricted keywords. Furthermore, they can do untimed gags which prevented the chatter from but only while they were in the chat room. Once they left and re-entered the chat room, the gag no longer applied. Despite this limitation, these gags were a lot of fun to use when unannounced and they weren't logged like timed gags. Internal accounts could also access Chris. Now Merlin, which is a member database containing details of every AOL account made. You kill accounts, permaban accounts, change name and address, reset the account's password, and do a bunch of other things. Unfortunately, Chris was firewalled, so the only way you could only access it is if you were inside one of AOL's buildings or had a special piece of hardware that looked like a calculator called a Securit. Chris looked like it would be impossible to break into at first, but AOL didn't take into account the stupidity of their employees. Breaking in. While guides and many AOL volunteers are obvious due to their restricted names, internal employee accounts are less obvious. In fact, I found the employee list while token scanning. What is token scanning, you might ask? Well, they are similar to invokes from Master AOL. In fact, an invoke is a type of token. New one, I believe. Invokes in most cases, but not all, are for old keywords that are usually abandoned. Token ranges, on the other hand, may be actively used. All keywords have a token assigned to it. Almost like every domain has an IP address. Now, certain keywords on AOL are restricted like keyword arc. If you access it from a normal account, it will behave like it doesn't exist. View ruling. However, if accessed from an overhead or internal account, the keyword will work. Once accessed from a special account, its token can be lifted so that it can be accessed from a regular account. Funny thing is, you can get around the view rule by accessing the token rather than the keyword directly. So how do you access tokens? You need an add-on application called Rainman Tool. It adds onto your copy of AOL much in the same manner that Master AOL did, but it gave you many more menu options. In addition to using it to token scan, it can also be used to design new keywords. It used a scripting language called FDO, which is like a proprietary version of HTML. While anyone can design keywords, only special Raymond AOL accounts can publish new keywords. Raymond accounts have been jacked in the past and keywords have actually been vandalized, sort of how we see HTML pages deface these days. While you may not be able to upload new keyword pages, they can run on your local machine and can interface with AOL. Very nice for exploits. More on this later. Oh, and for your information, many lamers thought Raymond Tool was used to create overhead accounts, thus causing many to download fake Raymond Tool apps online which did nothing but steal their password. So anyway, I made a simple Visual Basic program that used an API to control the AOL client. This allowed me to create a token scanner that scanned for tokens with Raymond and record any interesting ones I found. I used the keyword ARC token as my base and used it to dig up other restricted AOL employee or volunteer areas. After a bit of scanning, I hit the jackpot. I found an employee area with a sexy text document that contained a list of AOL employee accounts. With this list, I was guaranteed to gain access to several employee accounts. The way I cracked accounts was via a password cracker I made. First version was slow because it actually sent the commands to the AOL client, but eventually I made a WinSock-based version which was much faster and didn't require the AOL client. AOL's login protocol was similar to POP3. Anyway, you'd be surprised what dumb passwords these geniuses picked. I've seen everything from dildo and bacon to passwords spelled backwards. In addition to cracking, I also wrote a sweet little password sniffer. First version mailed out the password via the AOL mail form and used a screen capture and forced the cursor into an hourglass to mask itself, while my more advanced version used WinSock to mail out the password via an open relay. When using a sniffer, I usually convert the exe into a scrapbook file by pasting the exe into the WordPad and dragging the pasted exe into my desktop. For some reason it converted it into a SHS file, but it acted just like an exe. Most idiots figured SHS was some sort of image format. When using the sniffer, I would make friends with the internal I wanted to hack. My friendship would usually last for months so that I could gain their trust, and usually I made several friends at once. Eventually I would go, "Hey Bob, you got a pic?" Usually Bob would go, "Oh yeah," and we swapped pics. My pic was of course an SHS file. When executed, it showed a real pic of me for realism before activating the sniffer. Exploits. Some exploits I found. None of them work today. There were more, but I forgot them. These really stood out to me. I found a token that was some sort of ad for some shitty camera AOL was pushing. What was interesting about it is if you pushed the order button, it showed a prefilled form with your full name, address, and credit card info. Essentially, any stolen AOL account turned into a credit card. I used a few to card porn site membership, but got bored of that fast. Also, using stolen credit cards even behind proxies made me a little uncomfortable, as did causing some innocent individual financial loss. I later found out that in the end the merchant gets screwed, not the individual. In the AOHELL thread, some of you mentioned those restricted screen names like guide, help, and host. Well, normally you can't make these, but after AOL trains a guide candidate, they reserve a screen name for them. While that screen name on reserve, anyone who knows about it can take it. In the ideal situation, only the guide and AOL know about it. I knew about it too after reading some documentation I found while token scanning. So I wrote another VB app that scanned for open restricted screen names. You entered a prefix into it like guide, host, AOL tech, etc. It would then rapidly run through suffixes like guide AAA, guide AAB, etc. until it found a valid non-restricted screen name. This application was not WinSock based and used the AOL client to do this. With Raymond Tool and VPD, you could access the source code of any AOL form. Well, after downloading the source to the create a screen name form, I figured out how to modify the source to allow me to make any restricted screen name. I don't remember the exact details today on what I did, but when viewing the modified form with Raymond, it allowed any restricted name I desired. This exploit died pretty fast. Not really an exploit, but I found a document that detailed about a new keyword called Toxic Instant Message. They allowed any community leader account to file a special Toxic Instant Message TOS report, as deadly as an on-screen warning, and worked with all community leader accounts. Unlike normal AOL account TOS reports, a Toxic Instant Message smoked the offending account in seconds. A Toxic Instant Message was added because a lot of punters were punting volunteer hosts who were trying to help members or something like that. When accessing the keyword, you pasted the offending punter HTML so that AOL could research it. Of course, it was easy to forge that too and smoke somebody's account who you really hated. Unfortunately, more than one person found out about this and it was abused and eventually killed. Not really an exploit, but as a guide you can issue an on-screen warning report. Each on-screen warning will bump the account user offline, and 3 will terminate the account for good. You are supposed to send an email to Dead Volvo or Grandpa Z3. These screen names may be wrong since I'm pulling this from the top of my head with the proper on-screen warning format, and the bot reading the report would execute the on-screen warning. Those stupid guides didn't delete their sent email, so I lifted the on-screen warning format and wrote a VB app that automated the on-screen warning process and even announced to the chat room which user was about to lose their AOL account. I made a stealth mode option too, which announced the kill on a normal AOL account while the guide account initiated the kill. This prevented my target from claiming that a guide account was compromised when calling AOL. Instead, they would blame some normal account, causing the rep on the phone to go "lol sure kid." I figured out how to get around the firewall that protected the CRIS database. With some help from a more advanced programmer friend, I made a special proxy server which bounced my packets through an AOL employee's workstation. After making friends with an AOL employee and sending them my pic, I was in business. I modified my TCP IPCCL login script so that instead of connecting to the default TCP bring your own access server, it connected to the compromised AOL workstation machine, which redirected the packet to the default TCP server. This caused the TCP server to see an IP address that was in one of AOL's offices and call centers. When logging in with an internal account and going to keyword CRIS, I had complete access to CRIS from an internal account. This allowed me to do almost anything I damn pleased except view someone's password. This was bad because since all CRIS activity is logged, I didn't want them to realize I was resetting guide accounts. I also didn't want to do any direct malicious activity with CRIS because AOL thought it was impossible, and I didn't want them to know about that security hole. I really wanted to save this exploit, so I wanted to be conservative. Well, I found another exploit that allowed me to view passwords. When AOL released AOL Instant Messenger, they allowed any AOL account to be converted to AOL Instant Messenger. The converted AIM account would have the same password as the AOL account. So what I did was convert the AOL account to AOL Instant Messenger and then selected the Forgot Password option. The Forgot Password form would email out the forgotten password of the AIM account to the AOL email address it was converted from. You see, after the AIM account was made, it was semi-independent of the AOL account, meaning you could change the password of the AIM account while keeping the AOL password the same. So before resetting the password, I would do the above. Once reset, I logged in and checked the account's email, pulled up the forgotten password email, and went to keyword password to change the password back to its original. This allowed me to access every guide account I desired. That way, if I wanted to term someone, rather than doing it via CRIS, I did it indirectly with the guide account via on-screen warning. The CRIS exploit lasted a long time, but eventually someone else did the same thing I did and wasn't as conservative as me. This caused a huge panic at AOL, and they fixed that hole by requiring everyone to use their secured device even while inside the AOL building. Hopefully they were also smart enough to modify their firewall so that unauthorized servers could not be run on employee workstations. This was the last major exploit I did after my CRIS exploit died. This might not seem like a big exploit, but it makes me a lot of money. More on this later. I figured out a way that prevented my AOL account from getting terminated if I was caught with an unacceptable profile. Normally, when AOL found an unacceptable profile, they would delete it and note a TOS violation on your AOL account. After 3 TOS violations, your account is toast. Well, I found out that after my profile was deleted, if I went on my master screen name and deleted the screen name with the deleted profile, and then used the restore feature to restore my deleted screen name, that the profile would also be restored. Not only that, but if AOL caught the vulgar profile again, they would delete it, but it wouldn't count as a TOS violation. So at worst, my screen name would only have 1 violation and it wouldn't die. After about 1.5 years, AOL found out, but I made a lot of money with it. This exploit was my transition from being a loser hacker to businessman, since it gave me seed money to start a legit enterprise. What I did. Some things I did while being an angsty AOL hacker. There was this teen chat room that I hated. It was one of those special moderated conference rooms which held more than 24 people. People talked about the stupidest shit and the moderators were equally dumb. So I hopped on an internal account and gagged the entire room, including moderators. This made the chat room way better. For 5 minutes no one spoke and the stupid mods knew something was up. Finally, TOS advisor came into the room and one of the mods instant messaged me saying something lame like, "So it was you. You are in big trouble now." Then TOS advisor instant messaged me and asked for my supervisor. I replied with Steve Case. This caused my account to be bumped offline with the password reset. I hated proggy rooms. Everyone and their mother thought they were some sort of hacker because they could push a few buttons. Wow, what a rough crowd. I would announce to the room who I would be booting, terming, and I would personally instant message them too. They would laugh it off and call me a lamer until they got bumped. When they came back online, they were all,
"What, how did you do that? What to be pres of my hacker group?"
I liked to toy with them at that point. I would sometimes tell them that I am going to terminate their account. They would shit their pants and beg me not to, or their moms would kill them. Of course I did anyway. God, I was such a dick, even if they were just AOL pups who made a script kiddie look smart. I loved to go to the Black and Asian rooms and ask them if it was okay to hang out there even though I was white. If the room welcomed me with open arms, I would do nothing and be cool. If they replied with some racial slur, it would be payback. Most of the Asian chat rooms were cool with me, although some, notably the Pinoy rooms, for some reason did not like a white boy coming into their rooms. They would step up and tell me they'd fuck me up if I didn't leave. You can guess what happened. I sniped their accounts one by one till they were all gone. Yes, it was a real dickhead thing to do, even if they were pricks. I had a lot of Asian friends though, since they were computer nerds like me and they thought it was funny. AOL had these special tech support rooms where you could get one-on-one help with an AOL tech rep. If you used AOL for a while, you probably know what I'm talking about. Well, with an AOL tech account, I could access these rooms too on the tech support side. They were password protected with a special PIN, but these smarty man reps sometimes had the PIN in their mailbox. I would simply keep CRIing accounts till I found one that had a PIN. With PIN in hand, I accessed the tech support chat room and started helping people. No matter what question the AOLer had, I would solve their problem by instructing them how to deltree themselves in a DOS console window. Some caught on, but most didn't. You'd think they'd be suspicious typing deltree. As soon as the victim said, "Hey, why are my files being deleted?" I would kick them off so I could help the next person. God, I was such a prick. Talk about angst. Going gold. When I turned 15, I finally realized that hacking AOL was stupid as hell and a waste of time. I decided to use my skills for profit rather than screwing around AOL. My first for-profit venture was botting. I noticed there were a lot of chat spam bots on AOL. They were all intrusive and dumb. They pushed all sorts of adult websites which these bots were earning commission on via an affiliate program. Now I was smart enough to realize that unless you had a backdoor deal, there was no way to get away with spamming links in the chat rooms. In fact, I've seen many of those idiot chatbots get their affiliate link codes disabled. Well, during this time I read about a public exploit that allowed you to have links in your profile that could link to any website. Normally only AOL homepage links were linkable on your profile. Well, I used this link exploit to link to a porn site I made with various adult sites that I was advertising. My profile had naughty words on it that make me look like a cam girl and lured the AOL surfer to the adult site. I realized that if I just idled in a cybersex chat room under a sexy screen like Sexy Hot 18 Cindy, that tons of people would access my profile and check out my site. I didn't even chat or anything, I just idled. So I didn't annoy anyone, nor did I spam, so my sponsor never got any complaints. Unfortunately, AOL did get complaints from assholes who were pissed that I was idling in their chat room. This got me T.O. said, but led to my discovery of exploit number 8. By this time I had set up a S corporation with the help of my parents and a special business account with AOL. You see, normally you are limited to the amount of pay AOL account you could create per credit card. I think the limit was 5, but I needed 100. The solution was AOL's business service. This was for any business who needed to make many AOL accounts for their employees and was stupid enough to think AOL is a good way for their employees to access the internet. Rather than billing your credit card, AOL mailed out an invoice that was supposed to be paid every month. This setup was perfect, so I made 100 accounts for my employees and controlled AOL like the mafia controlled Vegas. It was a pretty sweet setup. I had my very own personal account rep and everything. This AOL bot method made a pretty penny too. I was pulling in over 13 grand a month when I was 17. This partnership lasted for about 1.5 years. AOL charged me $14.95 per month for each account, so they made real good out of this deal. Well, after 1.5 years they finally figured out what was going on and killed exploit number 8. Not only that, but they reset all my passwords and continued to send me an invoice anyway. So after 2 months of getting billed for dead accounts, I called my rep. I was really pissed, so I called my account rep, who very rudely told me,
"Amiria Online is not interested in your kind of business."
I told him, okay, well, I would like a refund for the past 2 months since I couldn't access my accounts.
"I'm sorry, sir, but you still have to pay the entire balance due."
"I'm sorry, but I refuse to pay the balance, and I think both you and AOL can go suck a dick." After he heard that, he sounded pretty shocked, as if nobody ever said anything like that to him.
"Well, sir, I think this conversation is over."
This really pissed me off at the time, and it meant war. I paid $1,495 a month for AOL access to advertise adult services in cyber sex chat rooms in a low-key manner, and this is how they treat me. Fine, fuck it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Since I couldn't advertise on AOL in a semi-legit and low-key fashion, I went with a more invasive and even less legit fashion. I started to email spam. By this time I had a good rep with my sponsors, and I too set up some backdoor spam deals. I was determined to milk AOL for all it's worth and punish them by causing them as much grief as possible via spam complaints their members filed. I wasn't the only guy spamming AOL though. There were other AOL spammers too. All of them are morons. Sure, there were spammers making a shitload of money, but rather than investing their money into legit business ventures, they blew it on drugs and who knows what else. I knew this because I lurked in an AOL email spammer forum. When I was doing the bot thing and the spam thing, I was very conservative with my money. Since I didn't drink or do drugs, I was able to wisely invest my money into various legit ventures. Some are still around today while others failed miserably. I was always thinking of new business ventures and still am today. I never spammed non-AOL users. I figured if someone was dumb enough to use AOL, they deserved to be spammed. Besides, I didn't know how to harvest quality non-AOL lists. I figured email addresses harvested from search engines were shit anyway and hammered to death by other spammers. I don't do email spamming anymore, and I kind of regret doing it in a way. Nothing forced me to continue milking AOL. I was already making a killing also exploiting the search engines at the same time by getting the top listings on major porn-related keywords. Well, I don't spam anymore and never plan on doing it in the future. It was sleazy, but hey, I was young. I figure if Steve Jobs made his seed money selling blue boxes, I would make mine this way. It's been a fun ride going from loser hacker to legitimate businessman. My business is constantly expanding. Right now I have 5 new business ventures that I thought up and are on the drawing boards in addition to my current ventures. I have 8 full-time programmers now in the Ukraine and I'm an IT major now. My parents pushed me to go to college just in case. So that's my story. Any comments and questions? Flames. Feel free to post your computer experiences relating to AOL or the internet too. Well, it's late, time for me to go to bed. Take care everyone. Sorry if I pissed anyone off with this thread. I was an angsty teen, I guess.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.